I'm Brittany, this is Wei Ying, and welcome to Gaywatch, where we watch gay things. Today is day one of volume 5 of Modao Zuche. Now, this cannot be live streamed because I have on good authority that at some point we're gonna get explicit in a way that is even more explicit than what we experienced towards the end of volume 4. So I have elected in still reading on Thursdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays. This is going to go great. I've elected to reading on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I can't live stream. So they will be posted on Wednesdays and Fridays. That's why it's Wednesday when you're seeing this and not Tuesday. Enough explaining days of the week. So, we are reading all through volume 5. The actual story, I think, ends pretty soon before page like 200, and the rest are short stories. However, once again, that great authority assures me that the short stories, the bits and pieces after the main narrative are entirely worth reading. So we're doing the whole thing. Yeah? And even though this video is not a live stream, just I guess for funsies really, and for the fact that I won't really have to edit this later, I'm treating it like a live stream. So it'll feel like a stream and all the things that come with a Gaywatch stream, unless I really have to edit something out. But other than that, it should feel like volumes 1 through 4, frankly, of the live streams that we've had for this series that is finally going to come to an end. It makes me very sad, but like very happy at the same time. I actually have all 5 volumes of something. Do you know what that means? I don't have all 5 volumes of anything. I can't really afford to like just collect books, to just have actual physical copies of books just on shelves. And this channel enables me to at least do this. And I am exceedingly grateful. I actually have a complete thing from MXTX now, by the way. And I'm very excited to complete the other 2 by the end of the year, kind of somewhat the beginning of next year if you really count, but we don't pay attention to details like that. So we start at the very beginning. Usually these reading videos will be about a couple hours long, but today I got woken up at 8:30 in the morning by 2 guys trying to break into the crawl space underneath my house. So I had to call the cops and deal with that, and that interrupted my sleep. So who really knows what this video is about to be? All I know is that it's later than it should be, and my wife will be home at some point, and that's when I'm going to stop the video. So, we're going to read for as long as we possibly can. And I've got a couple of typical things before we start reading. One, I have a cough. It's an asthmatic cough. There's nothing I can really do about it except drink tea out of my co-hosts. So that's what I do, and I do my best to angle my face away from the microphone so that you don't get the brunt of it. But other than that, sometimes it's barely there, sometimes it's annoying. We just kind of aggressively ignore it. You know, like Compet. We just aggressively ignoring, you know? And other than that, it's supposed to be 2 hours long. I'm ADD, I have to do the checklist. It's supposed to be about 2 hours long, but there's an exception today because, you know, break-ins. And asthmatic cough. We're at the top of a volume, so I don't need to give you the page number. So I think we can just begin after a 5-minute long intro. We are at the very beginning, otherwise known as chapter 21 for this volume. Chapter 21 entitled Hensheng, To Hate Life. We're starting off with some tea for this. Okay. Also, just on the off chance that you're starting with volume 5 and not, say, I don't know, volume 1, and you are not aware, I have never read this book before. in any translation or capacity. I have, however, seen The Untamed, so I know it's coming, but not really. Show spoilers, not book spoilers. Take that to mean whatever it means to you if you've read the book, because I haven't, so I actually don't know really what we're in for. So this is a reaction type of video and not a sit down, let me professionally read you a story with my practiced voice. No, this is all of the hijinks and histrionics of a typical reaction. I just happen to be reading instead of watching something. It's wonderful for the copyright. Part 1, Chapter 21. Let's fucking go. Alright. Wei Wuxian ran directly to the city's Guanyin temple with Wen Ning in tow. He and Lan Wangji had scouted a path earlier in the day, intending to examine it more closely at night to crack the magic array. That would allow them to determine exactly what the array was keeping sealed away, and whether it would help them face Jin Guangyao. But he just had to sleep all the way until shoe time, and when he woke, that had happened. Oh yeah, I think we all aware of, what that means. Their plans were a bust, as were other things that happened. And Wei Wuxian was sorely agitated. What better time than the present to cause some trouble for that sneak, Jin Guangyao? That sneak, that scamp, that little rascal. We're going to tease him. We're going to complicate his life a little bit. All was tranquil in the deep of the night. Every household had extinguished its lights, and the doors of the Guanyin temple were shut. From his spot outside the tall walls of the enclosure, Wei Wuxian could see it was pitch black inside the courtyard. He started to climb the wall, then halted abruptly. Something's not right, he thought. Wen Ning stopped in his tracks as well. A barrier has been set, he murmured. Wei Wuxian gestured, and the two dropped silently back to the ground. They left through the front gates and headed to a nook behind the Guanyin temple. It was there that they cautiously scaled the enclosure wall. After they had hidden themselves behind a beast statue on one of the roof's ridges, they peered into the courtyard once more, and were struck dumb by what they saw. Lights shone bright inside the temple. The complex was filled with standing figures. Half the crowd were monks, and the other half were cultivators wearing the sparks amidst snow uniform. The two groups were milling together, all wielding bows and swords. They seemed to be guarding something. They were clearly ready for battle and would occasionally exchange hushed words as they remained on standby. A special concealment barrier had been set up around the temple. From the outside, it looked like all was still, dark and silent. None of the lights or voices within could be seen or heard. What shocked Wei Wuxian wasn't the barrier, though. Here we go, and it wasn't the cultivators or fake monks. It was the white-clad man standing in the center of the courtyard. It was Lan Shichen. My husband about to go through it. He was not bound or restrained in any way, except mentally and emotionally, but that's my addition. Even his Xiao, Lai Bing, and his sword were still fastened at his waist as he stood calmly among the crowd. The monks and cultivators also treated him with the utmost respect, some going as far as to respond to his statements with docile murmurs. After observing them for a while, Wei Wuxian whispered to Wen Ning, hurry back to the inn and bring Han Wenjun here as quickly as possible." Wen Ning nodded. The next second, he was gone. Wei Wuxian hadn't spotted Jin Guangyao. He didn't know whether the man was here too, nor whether he had the Yin Tiger tally in his clutches. After contemplating the situation briefly, he bit his finger, planning to entice a few minor minions into helping him summon some more powerfully sinister creatures. But just as he was about to stick his bleeding finger into his spirit-trapping pouch, the sound of a dog barking came from the end of the long street outside the temple. Wei Wuxian was promptly scared out of his wits. He nearly ruptured his internal organs trying to repress the urge to leap straight into the clouds. Instead, he latched onto the beast statue near the top of the wall, shuddering in terror as he listened to the barking come closer and closer. "Save me, Lanjian, save me!" he chanted to himself unconsciously. Aww. Chanting the name seemed to help him muster some courage. With one last shiver, he forced himself to calm down, praying desperately that the dog was astray without a master, and that it would quickly go the hell away. Alas, the Lord of Heaven was in an uncooperative mood. A young man's bright, clear voice could be heard amidst the barking. "Shut up, fairy!" the young man scolded. "Are you trying to wake everyone on this street in the middle of the night?" It was Jin Ling. Lan Shichen's expression stiffened. Most of the cultivators from the Jin clan of Lanling recognized the voice of their little young master, and they exchanged looks before knocking arrows to their bows, all the same. It wasn't long before the boy and dog arrived at the front entrance of the Guanyin temple. "Shh! Keep barking and I'll turn you into stew," Jinling quickly hissed. "Where are you taking me?" Wei Wuxian's heart was so full of a myriad of fears that he was scared it would hurtle out of his body. "Jinling, you unlucky little thing, get out of here!" Of course, Jinling just had to stop outside the temple. Fairy kept howling. It sounded like it was circling around, pawing at the dirt and wall. "Are you taking me here?" Jinling wondered. After a brief silence, he actually knocked on the door. "Is anyone there?" Inside the courtyard, every Jin cultivator was holding their breath. Their attention and their arrows were both aimed at the front gates, though they did not fire. They seemed to be waiting for a command. "Do not hurt him," Lan Shichen hissed. The temple's barrier kept his voice from being heard outside it. But the cultivators did not relax their guard, nor did they drop their bows. Jinling also seemed to have noticed something was off. Even if no one was patrolling the temple grounds at night, he had rapped on the door hard enough to shake the heavens. Anyone inside should have been jolted awake by the racket, making the complete lack of movement suspicious. Thus he remained silent, as I throw my phone across the room, where he stood outside the door. Before Wei Wuxian could exhale the breath he was holding, there was another round of crazed barking. Jinling was furious. "Hey, why are you running back now?" Wei Wuxian was overjoyed. "Good fairy! Fairy, come back! Fucking hell!" Jinling cursed. "Little ancestor," which has a footnote we'll get to in a second, "please just leave and take the dog with you. I'm begging you," Wei Wuxian pleaded in his head. The first footnote of this volume is for ancestor. Ancestor is what one can call someone who is being difficult and demanding. This is the most relatable China has ever been. It usually expresses exasperation, though it can also be used affectionately. Shortly after, he heard the barely perceptible sound of a piece of rock being knocked loose. At first, he didn't know where it had come from, then cold sweat drenched him as the realization hit. Oh no, the brat scaling the wall. The moment Jinling reached the top of the wall, he saw the sea of arrows aimed at him. His pupils contracted. One of the monks had probably never seen Jinling before, or was perhaps determined to eliminate any intruders. He let his arrow fly. It shrieked toward Jinling with a sharp, piercing whistle that told Wei Wuxian the archer was an expert. If the arrow hit its target, it would surely run Jinling's chest through. Wei Wuxian only had one thing on him that could immediately block the shot. In a moment of desperation, he leapt onto the wall and flung it out. "Run, Jinling!" he yelled. He had thrown the bamboo flute that he'd kept on him ever since his rebirth. It knocked the menacing arrow off course, but the flute splintered into pieces on impact. Did that happen in the show? He didn't actually lose Jinling in the show. Did he? He didn't. I don't think he did. It's been a second since I've watched the finale. I would remember, even me, ADD-addled as I am, I would remember that. Him losing the fucking flute. Well, shit. Yeah, of course, because he has it later after all of this Alright. Okay. Jinling had vanished from atop the wall. He'd probably run away, but in giving him that opportunity, Wei Wuxian had revealed his own position. Hundreds of arrows came flying toward him, turning the stone beast into a porcupine. That was close, Wei Wuxian thought. Every single one of those archers was a crack shot, and their cultivation was likely excellent as well. Whether Zhenling would actually be able to escape remained to be seen. He formed a hand seal as he jumped down from the wall and was just about to whistle when a chuckle sounded behind him. I'll advise Wei Gongji to refrain. Your flute shattering would be nothing in comparison to the misery of losing your fingers and tongue, no? Wei Wuxian immediately dropped his hand. You're very right, he agreed. The man beckoned him. Would you kindly follow me? Yeah, I got an idea about who this is. Wei Wuxian nodded. Very kind of you indeed, Sect Leader Jin. My pleasure, Jin Guangyao said with a smile. It's the second time I tried to throw my phone across the room. It is now away from me. They strolled the grounds as if nothing had happened, and Wei Wuxian was speechless as they went. After several large, winding turns, they arrived at the entrance of the temple proper. The front doors were open. As Wei Wuxian suspected, Jinling hadn't been able to escape. He was surrounded by several monks with swords pointed at him. After a moment of staring, he hesitantly decided to greet them. Xiao Shishu. Hello there, Aling, Jin Guangyao replied amiably. Jinling then stole a glance at Wei Wuxian. Since there was no dog at the lad's side, Wei Wuxian was finally able to regain his scattered wits. Child, it's so late. What are you doing bringing a dog here all alone? He asked, grimacing. After Wei Wuxian left Lotus Pier by boat with Lan Wangji and Wen Ning, Jinling had secretly set off to find him. When he found no trace of him, he threw a fit at his uncle, who had apparently gone insane and was running around making everyone try to pull some crappy sword from its scabbard. Jinling had pointed an accusatory finger in Zhang Cheng's face and shouted at the top of his lungs that he was the reason Wei Wuxian had run off and was subsequently smacked to the ground for the comment. Refusing to rest until Wei Wuxian was found, Jinling had pursued him with Fairy in tow. Fairy had lived up to expectations by accurately tracking Wei Wuxian's scent all the way to the grounds of this Guanyin temple. Sensing a surge of murderous intent within, it had abruptly changed tack when Jinling started knocking on the door, trying to warn its owner by biting his clothes and barking nonstop. Unfortunately, there was clearly something odd about the temple. Jinling had felt that he should check it out, even if Wei Wuxian wasn't there, and so he had still fallen into the enemy's hands. Of course, he wasn't about to tell them all of that, so he only snorted at Wei Wuxian in response. Jin Guangyao led the group inside the temple. As the front doors were about to close, he turned to ask his subordinate, "Where's the spirit dog?" "That black spirit dog is usually ferocious," one of the monks replied. "It bit whoever came close. Our efforts were in vain, and it escaped." "Pursue and kill it," Jin Guangyao said. "The dog is quite intelligent. We don't want it going to fetch anyone." "Yes, sir." The monk left, sword in hand, and the front doors closed after him. Jinling was left dumbstruck and horrified. "You're really going to kill Fairy?" he blurted. "You gave it to me." Jin Guangyao didn't answer him, but asked instead, "Aling, what are you doing here?" Jinling stole a glance at Wei Wuxian, hesitating. Suddenly, Lan Xichen spoke up. "Sect Leader Jin, Jinling is still a child." Jin Guangyao turned to look at him. "I'm aware." "And he is your nephew." Lan Xichen pressed further. At a loss for words, Jin Guangyao laughed out loud instead. "Urga, what are you implying? Of course I know Jinling is a child. And that he's my nephew. What did you think I was going to do? Kill him to seal his lips?" You know, that's a real, that is a subtle way of communicating so many things about Shichen's specific position right now, and just the depths at which this man has had to... It's tragic, and I fucking hate her. We hate MXTX in this house. Uh-huh. Lin Chen did not reply, falling silent instead. Jin Guangyao shook his head and turned to Jin Ling. Ah Ling, you hear that? If you try to run away or scream, it seems I might do something terrible to you. I'll let you decide. Jinling had always had a good relationship with his little uncle, who doted on him. Jin Guangyao wore a genial expression even now, but it was very hard for Jinling to continue to see him the same way, given the circumstances. He walked over to Wei Wuxian and Lin Shichen in silence, apparently on his best behavior. Jin Guangyao whirled around and questioned his subordinates. Have you still not exhumed it? Tell them to hurry up in there. Yes, sir, one of the monks answered before charging into the temple's main hall with his sword at the ready. Only then did Wei Wuxian notice an odd, repetitive noise from inside Guanyin Hall. It sounded like earth being moved, as though there were many people digging. What's he digging for, Wei Wuxian wondered. Making a tunnel? Excavating the Yin Tiger Tally? Unearthing the thing that's sealed in here? Speaking of which, Jin Guangyao said, I still haven't asked how Mr. Wei knows of this place. Don't tell me you and Hang Wanjun chanced upon it during your wanderings. Lan Fengjun hid an important-looking land deed inside Fragrance Palace's secret chamber. It was placed next to my manuscripts, remember? Ah, that was indeed an oversight on my part. I should have stored them separately. Either way, we can't escape your clutches, Wei Wuxian said. Won't Lan Fengjun tell me what is sealed here inside the temple? Just so my curiosity is satisfied. That information isn't cheap, Wei Gongji. Jin Guangyao answered with a pleasant smile. Are you sure you want to pay the price? Oh, never mind then, Wei Wuxian acquiesced. Lan Shichen walked over to him. It was then Wei Wuxian noticed that though the sword hung on his waist, It was then Wei Wuxian noticed that though the sword hung on his waist was unsheathed an inch, no spiritual light coursed through the blade. That's exactly what you want to hear in this situation. Ziwijin, you're much ashamed. I was deceived, falling for a trap that cost me all my spiritual power. Lan Shichen explained. Even though I have both this name. Shoye? And Lai Bing with me, I am unable to help. There's no shame in that, Wei Wuxian said. Lying is Lan Fengjun's forte, after all. Considering the scene Wei Wuxian had witnessed during his session of empathy with Ni Mingzhu, the one in which Meng Yao had pretended to commit suicide to deceive him, and comparing it to the news of Lan Fengjun being seriously injured, it wasn't hard to guess how Lan Shichen had lost his spiritual powers. That this is the tip of the iceberg in terms of what Lan Shichen is about to go through. Hello, how did I lose my... There we go. Construct an array before Hang Wanjun gets here, Jin Guangyao ordered several monks. Anything that can obstruct him will do. Why are you so sure Hang Wanjun is coming? Wei Wuxian asked. His mind, respect the attempt, but his mind was still racing, plotting whether, combine those two words, to come up with a lie to get Jin Guangyao to drop his guard. But Jin Guangyao smiled briefly, seeming to see through him. Of course he is. Since Wei Gongji regards this Guanyin temple with such suspicion, it would be impossible for Hang Wanjun not to as well. Do you really think I will believe you if you claim he isn't with you? Smart man, Wei Wuxian said. Lan Shichen spoke up. Wei Gongji, if Wang Ji is nearby, why didn't he come with you? We split up, Wei Wuxian said. Lan Shichen blinked at his response. I heard you were injured upon your return from the burial mounds. Why would he leave you at such a time? Who'd you hear that from? Wei Wuxian wondered. Me, Jing Guangyao replied. Wei Wuxian shot him a look, then turned back to Lan Xichen. It's like this. I couldn't sleep tonight, so I went out to take a stroll. It was pure chance that I happened to wander this way. Hang Wenjun was in another room, so he didn't know I left. Jing Guangyao found this strange. You two stayed in separate rooms? You said we were sharing, Wei Wuxian retorted. Jing Guangyao smiled at that, but didn't respond. Oh, I see. Realizing Lan Xichen must have been the one who told him, Wei Wuxian remarked, You two really do tell each other everything. Lan Xichen, however, was not joking around. Wei Gongxi, did something happen between you two? I mean, are we gonna get into this now? Like, are we gonna sit down and have just, like, a little chat? Because, like, things are happening, things are being exhumed, people are trapped, some people have no spiritual power. Like, it's not really the time to sit down and, like, dish. The usual gentle smile on his face was gone, replaced by sternness. It made him look even more like Lan Wangji. Wei Wuxian couldn't understand why he was getting such a severe reaction. Already feeling guilty, he answered, Sect Leader Lan, what could possibly happen between us? Let's focus on dealing with this guy first, shall we? I'll tell you all about how happy I made your brother in a little bit. But we got other shit on our plate right now. He gestured at Jing Guangyao with his eyes. It was only at this reminder that Lan Xichen relented and said, I have been impatient. My apologies. Jing Guangyao laughed, however. It seems something really did happen. Something big. At that. I mean, Jing Guangyao knows everything, so why wouldn't he know that? Wei Wuxian sneered. The entire cultivation world is poised to embark on a crusade against you, Lan Fengjun. You seem so carefree. Do you still have time to worry about other people or get chatty with them? Please, I am simply marveling. Hang Wenjun endured the wait for so many years, but even now his efforts have come to naught. I mean, they didn't come to naught earlier, you know what I'm saying? They came to the opposite of naught. They came to plenty, you know what I mean? It's the quality humor that you find on Gaywatch. Wow, I just sex joked my way off of my place. There we are. Not only does Sect Leader Lan have reason to be impatient, it is also difficult for those of us watching from the sidelines to bear. Wei Wuxian abruptly shifted his gaze to him. Waiting for what? What efforts? This is how the disaster bisexual is going to get finally clued in to Wang Ji's long-suffered pining existence. It literally hit me as I said the words out loud. Of course. Of course. Of course. Just sure. Yeah. What? Of course. His questions surprised both Jing Guangyao and Lan Xichen. I mean, you would not expect somebody this smart to be this oblivious. And yet, do not underestimate the bisexuals. The two of them looked Wei Wuxian over seriously, critically, as if trying to discern whether he was just pretending to be this obtuse. No. We bisexuals are just built that way, I guess. Wei Wuxian's heart suddenly started pounding, like the thing that had been dead for half the night was gradually being revived. What do you mean? He asked with forced calm. What do I mean? Jing Guangyao echoed his question, then asked in amazement, Wei Gongxi, do you really not understand? Or are you pretending to not understand? Whether you mean it or not, Hang Wenjun would be rather hurt if he heard you. I really don't understand. Just tell it to me straight, Wei Wuxian exclaimed without a hint of irony in his word choice. That last part was added by me. Lan Xichen was dismayed. Wang Gongji, do not tell me you know nothing of Wang Ji's feelings, despite having been with him for so long. Wow, we really gotta drag out this man's obliviousness just right here in the temple. Just right here. Just right here in the temple. Do we not? Again, things are being exhumed. Certain people have no spiritual power at the moment. We are in a tight spot. Do we really have to talk about the similar place that Wang Ji and Wuxian just were in, like, now? Wei Wuxian grabbed him. He was nearly on his knees, begging him to just tell him everything clearly and all at once. Sect Leader Lan, you said Lan Chan's feelings. What feelings? Does he... Lan Chen yanked his hand out of Wei Wuxian's grip. It would seem you truly do not know, he said in disbelief. Have you so easily forgotten how he received the discipline whip scars? Have you not seen the brand on his chest? The discipline whip scars, Wei Wuxian exclaimed as he grabbed Lan Chen again. Sect Leader Lan, I really don't know anything. Please tell me, where did those scars come from? Could they have something to do with me? Irritation appeared on Lan Chen's face. If not because of you, would he have done that to himself for no reason? Lan Chen's really, he's added, up to here. Up to here. With this bi nonsense. Zewujin had always been faultlessly decorous, but he was moved by genuine anger now that the matter concerned Lan Wangji. Don't mess with the little brother. It's just facts. However, his rage dimmed a bit upon I'm too excited, I cannot speak. However, his rage dimmed a bit upon scrutinizing Wei Wuxian's expression. He ventured a tentative guess. Your memory is damaged. My memory? Wei Wuxian asked, then immediately tried to think back on whether he'd forgotten anything. I don't remember when my memory might... Wait, yes it is. There was indeed a period of time when his memory was particularly hazy. The nightless city massacre. What a time! What a time! That night he had thought the Wen siblings were reduced to ashes. He had heard the major clans' impassioned speeches as they began their crusade against him. He had even witnessed Jiang Yanli die in front of him. Madness had finally overtaken him, and he joined the two pieces of the entire tally and gone on a killing spree. Okay, I mean, when you put it like that, yeah, you know, you either hyper-remember every detail of trauma, or it becomes a bit hazy to protect yourself. Okay, fine. Makes psychological sense, MXTX. The Tiger Tally controlled the bodies of the dead. The people the dead slew turned into fierce corpses in turn, creating an infinite army of murderous puppets. The scene had quickly become a blood-soaked vision of hell. Although Wei Wuxian was still able to stand afterward, he felt himself leave the ruined city-turned-slaughterhouse in a trance. He remained senseless and oblivious for a long time. By the time he could think clearly again, he had already been sitting at the foot of Yiling's burial mounds for a long, long while. Is it coming back to you now? Lan Chen asked. Was it that time at Nightless City? Wei Wuxian mumbled. I'd always been under the impression that I wandered back by myself in a daze. Could it be... Oh, Jesus. Lan Chen was exasperated enough to laugh. Wei Gangji, how many cultivators waged war against you that night at Nightless City? 3,000! No matter how much of a genius you might be, how could you possibly have withdrawn unharmed? He rebuked. Lan Zhan... What did Lan Zhan do? Wei Wuxian asked. If you do not remember what Wang Ji has done for you, I worry he will never tell you himself. Nor will you ask him to, Lan Chen said. Very well. Allow me to tell you. Okay. Alright, everybody shut up. Everybody sit down. Everybody shut up. Wei Gangji, you took the two halves of the Yin Tiger Tally and combined them into one. After killing to your heart's content, you were completely spent. Wang Ji was hardly in a better state, having been wounded during your bout of madness. He was barely hanging on, only able to stand with Bi Chen's support. But even so, he followed you immediately when he saw you swaying on your feet as you left. Not many were still conscious at that point. I myself was almost immobile. I could only watch helplessly as Wang Ji hobbled after you, even though he was obviously almost completely drained of his spiritual powers. He lifted you, mounted Bichen, and flew away at once on the sword. It took 4 hours for my spiritual powers to recover. I hurried back to the land clan of Gusu to request reinforcements, worried that Wang Ji would be considered an accomplice if the other clans caught up to the two of you first. The best case scenario would see his reputation tarnished, blemished for life. The worst case scenario would see him killed without mercy. Uncle and I selected 33 seniors who had always thought highly of Wang Ji, and we launched a secret search. After 2 days, we finally found signs of your passage within the boundaries of Yiling. Wang Ji had hidden you inside a cave. By the time we arrived, you were sitting on a rock, staring into nothingness. Wang Ji held your hand in his own, speaking quietly and ceaselessly to you as he transferred you his spiritual power. But the entire time, you only repeated the same 2 words to him: get lost. Wei Wuxian's throat was dry. His eyes were rimmed with red. He couldn't say a single word. Lan Shichen continued his explanation. My uncle stood before him and rebuked him harshly, demanding he provide us with an explanation. It seemed he had already expected we would find him. He told us there was nothing to explain, that was all there was to it. He'd never once talked back to Uncle or me ever since he was young, but for you, not only did he talk back, he raised his blade against his fellow members of the Land Clan. Ooh, my throat's about to close. In the resulting fight, he seriously injured the 33 seniors we'd asked to come along. Wei Wuxian dug his fingers into his hair. I didn't know. He didn't have much else to say, other than repeating those words. Lan Shichen could restrain himself no longer. 33 lashes from the discipline whip, he exclaimed, all in one sitting, 1 per senior. You must know how painful the lashes are and how long one must lie in bed to recover. After he stubbornly escorted you back to the burial mounds, he returned morosely on his own to receive his punishment. Do you know how long he kneeled before the wall of discipline? When I went to check on him, I told him this: Wei Gongji has already committed a grave crime. Why must you add to them? Yet he told me that while he could not say whether your actions were right or wrong, he was willing to carry the burden with you regardless. I have to keep my throat open. I need to speak. It has been said that he spent those years facing the wall in reflection. In truth, he was too injured to do any such thing. And even so, when here we fucking go! When he learned of your death, he had to go to the burial mounds to see for himself, forcibly dragging his body there in such a state. When he whisked you away and hid you inside that cave, the way he spoke to you, the way he looked at you, even if you were blind or deaf, it would have been impossible not to understand his feelings. Shut up, phone! That is why Uncle was beyond outraged. Wang Ji has been the Land Disciple's role model ever since he was young, and later, a distinguished cultivator in the cultivation world. He has been proper and righteous his whole life, untouched by the corruption of the secular world. The only mistake he has ever made in his life is you. Yet you say you didn't know. Wei Gongji, in how many ways did you profess your feelings and pester him after your return via sacrifice? Every night you were determined to And yet you say you didn't know. If you did not know, why did you act that way? Okay, first of all, in regard to Wang Ji, this bitch's theme song is Don't Blame Me by Taylor Swift. Look it up. It's one of her best. That's his theme song. I don't make the fucking rules. Anyway. Wei Wuxian really wanted to go back in time to those very moments and kill his past selves. I know that feeling. It was precisely because he hadn't known that he dared to act that way. Well, yeah. Oh man, did we need this art? I mean, we always need the art, but did we need this art? Shit. I had to see it, you do too. Look at this. Of all the things that they decided to visually render for us, they made sure to include Lan Wangji's punishment. Everybody. Yeah, good long look. Not painful. Not painful at all. Reminiscent of one of my favorite fan works, though. Works of fan art. However you would say it. Yeah. I can't actually... I have this particular piece of art, which if I can find it, I'll I don't know, put the link in the description to this video so that you can see it. But this particular piece of fan art that I'm talking about, and if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I love deeply, intensely, and I have been given a sizable print of it that I deeply love because it's a stunning piece of art. I cannot put it up because it viscerally moves me so much in ways that I can describe, but it would take a while. That's what this art reminds me of. What a great time. I'm on page 25 for anyone you could probably get art, but you know. He was suddenly seized with terror. If Lan Wangji hadn't known that he essentially remembered nothing of the days after the Nightless City massacre, if Lan Wangji thought he'd always known about his feelings, then what the hell had he been doing to him since his return? Wei Wuxian's initial exaggerated buffoonery had been intended to repulse Lan Wangji and goad him into throwing him out of the cloud recesses as soon as possible. They would then go their separate ways, never to meet again. It was impossible that Lan Wangji hadn't seen through him and known his intentions. Even then, he had still stubbornly kept Wei Wuxian by his side and protected him. Yeah, man. Considering what you now know and remember, you think a little gay chicken is going to drive away the man who is in love with you? That's the opposite of what you should be doing to repel the man. He hadn't given Zheng Cheng a chance to draw near or make things difficult for Wei Wuxian. He had answered Wei Wuxian's every question, heeded his every whim, ridiculously indulgent, absurdly tolerant. Not to mention that, even in the face of Wei Wuxian's multitude of tricks, the awful teasing and flirting, he had still managed to maintain decorum without ever overstepping boundaries. When he suddenly shoved Wei Wuxian away at the inn earlier that night, could it have been because he thought it was just another of Wei Wuxian's wanton whims? Wanton whims. Wei Wuxian's wanted whims. That sounds like a sex shop. It also sounds like a particular modification for The Sims 4, but we're not going there. I'm having too many emotions. Wei Wuxian really couldn't bear to follow that line of thought any further. Good! I don't want to go down there either. He abruptly bolted toward the door, but several cultivators immediately blocked his way. Jing Guangyao began to speak. Wei Gongji, I can understand your excitement. Wei Wuxian only wanted to rush back to the inn, rush back to Lan Wangji's side, and babble all his feelings to him. Stop it! With a strike of his hand, he knocked down two of the monks who were trying to restrain him. Ooh, more art! Holy shit. Hang on. I just ADD'd. With the strike of his hand, he knocked down two of the monks who were trying to restrain him. He's really gonna try to... Holy shit. Ooh! I'm okay with this art, but we'll get there. Like hell you do, he growled. 7 or 8 others tackled him as soon as he struck, and Wei Wuxian's vision went dark. Jing Guangyao was determined to finish his sentence. I just wanted to tell you, there's no need to head out in such a rush. Your Hang Wenjun is already here. An icy blue sword glare streaked down from the sky. Whistling sharply, it forced back the figures crowding around Wei Wuxian before returning to its owner's hand. Lan Wangji landed silently in front of Guanyin Temple and cast a glance at Wei Wuxian. Though his expression was the same as always, Wei Wuxian was seized with nervousness. Everything he had wanted to say earlier suddenly crumpled into a ball and shrank back into his chest. His stomach twisted. Lan Zhan, he mumbled. Jin Ling, left completely stunned by Lan Xiquan's story, was overjoyed to see Lan Wangji arrive, but his expression turned odd again when he saw the look Lan Wangji was exchanging with Wei Wuxian. Jing Guangyao sighed in awe. See, Wei Gongji, as I said, as long as you're here, Hang Wenjun will surely come. Lan Wangji flicked the wrist of the hand holding Bichen, about to make a move, but was interrupted by a chuckle from Jing Guangyao that suggested he should reconsider. Hang Wenjun, you had best take 5 steps back. Wei Wuxian suddenly felt a subtle yet sharp pain around his neck. Careful, Lan Xichen hissed. Do not move. Lan Wangji's gaze landed on Wei Wuxian's neck. His face paled slightly. A light gold guqin string, so thin it was barely visible, was wrapped around Wei Wuxian's throat. Well, here's the hot boy shit from Lan Wangji. Let me make sure that you guys can see. Yeah, look at that. All its glory. Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Like, the robes. Focus. Camera. Focus. Don't be like me. Focus. Thank you. Beautiful. The robes. Get out of here. The hair. Shut the fuck up. The art in this book. The string was incredibly fine and painted a special color to boot, making it almost impossible for the human eye to catch. And Wei Wuxian had just been thrown for a loop, too distracted to pay attention to his surroundings. It was no wonder he'd ended up in such a perilous predicament. Again with the alliteration. Lan Zhan, don't! Wei Wuxian called. Don't back away! But Lan Wangji retreated 5 steps without hesitation. Excellent, Jing Guangyao said. Next, will you please put Bichen away? Lan Wangji immediately complied, sheathing Bichen with a shing. Wei Wuxian was furious. He gives you an inch, and you take a mile. This is taking a mile? Jing Guangyao asked. If I tell Hang Wenjun to seal his own spiritual meridians next, what would you call that? Wei Wuxian sputtered angrily. You... Before he could say another word, a sharp pain stung his neck. It felt as though his flesh had been cut, accompanied by something wet rolling down the line of his throat. Lan Wangji turned deathly pale. How can he disobey me, Think for a moment, Wei Gongji. I have his life strung between my fingers. Do not touch him, Lan Wangji said, enunciating each word clearly. Then Hang Wenjun knows what he should do, Jing Guangyao replied. After a moment, Lan Wangji said, Very well. Lan Xichen heaved a sigh. Lan Wangji raised his hand and heavily struck his acupoints twice, sealing his own spiritual meridians. Oh my God. Jing Guangyao gave a light smile and murmured, Honestly. Lan Wangji glared at him. Let him go. Suddenly, Wei Wuxian cut in. Lan Zhan, I have something to say to you. Ooh, shut the fuck up. Wait until later, Jing Guangyao said. No, it's urgent, Wei Wuxian insisted. Then you can say it as you are, Jing Guangyao said. While that was only an offhand statement, realization dawned on Wei Wuxian. You're right, he said. Then he yelled with all the breath he could pull into his lungs. Lan Zhan, Lan Wangji, Hang Wenjun, I genuinely wanted to sleep with you earlier. Three ellipses. That's how big the pause after that is. Three whole ass chunk of white right here. Because they... That's how he puts it. That's how he puts it. I don't want to see anyone else ever labeled disaster bisexual. He's the only one who gets to use that for... Jin Guangyao's grip slackened, and the I'm too excited, and the Guqin string around his neck fell away. Wei Wuxian lunged at Lan Wangji the moment stinging pain disappeared, unable to wait another moment. Excuse me? His earth-shattering confession impacted Lan Wangji's body like a lightning bolt, striking him so hard he had yet to come around. His normally unflustered expression showed a trace of stunned bewilderment. While it wasn't the first time Wei Wuxian had seized him around the waist in a tenacious embrace, this time Lan Wangji seemed to have turned into a block of wood. He was so stiff that he didn't know where to put his hands. There's a joke in here that's really obvious. That's all I have to say. Lanzhan, did you hear everything I just said? Wei Wuxian asked urgently. Lan Wangji moved his lips, but it was a while before he managed a response. He had always spoken concisely and succinctly. Never before had his words been so broken, so unbelievably hesitant and tentative. He got a hold of himself and tried again. I mean, can you imagine this poor gay man's brain, after so long and so much, finally just getting it stated like that, out loud, in front of his older brother and the guy that's about to try to, like, kill them all in whatever master plan. I mean, no wonder he's blue screening, honestly. Valid. Wouldn't expect anything else. You said... He seemed to want to repeat what Wei Wuxian had said to confirm his ears didn't deceive him, but such words were much too difficult for Lan Wangji to speak aloud. Wei Wuxian, not missing a beat, was fully ready to repeat himself. I said I genuinely wanted to. Next to him, Lan Xichen had folded his hand into a fist and placed it against his lips to give a polite cough. After a moment of deliberation, he sighed. He's doing a lot of that lately, although boy, I understand. Next to him, Lan Xichen had folded his hand and Wei Gongji, you certainly know how to pick a time and place. Shit. So sorry, Sect Leader Lan, Wei Wuxian said, though the apology was not in the least bit sincere. But I really couldn't wait any longer. Jin Guangyao didn't seem like he could wait any longer either. He turned his head to ask, have you still not exhumed it? One of the monks answered him, Sect Leader, you buried it so very deep. Various shades of blue and white flashed across Jin Guangyao's face. He seemed extremely upset. Despite that, he did not berate his subordinates, but only urged them, quicken the pace. Had he only just spoken when a blinding flash of lightning splintered... He had only just spoken when a blinding flash of lightning splintered across the horizon. Moments later, thunder roared. Jin Guangyao glanced at the sky, gloom lightly clouding his expression. It didn't take long before slanted threads of rain began to descend from the skies. That's a good-ass sentence. It didn't take long before slanted threads of rain began to descend from the skies. You know, if I were going to change that at all, I would probably rearrange it, just add that this is not a editing session, and also the people on the whole do a remarkable job translating this book. Now is not the time. Writer brain, though, I do it without thinking. Wei Wuxian held Lan Wangji tightly. He had initially planned to allow millions of words to burst through the dam of his chest, but the icy rain on his face cooled him down a little. Jing Guangyao turned to Lan Shichen. Zewujun, it's raining. Shall we go inside to take shelter? Yeah, we haven't even touched about what they have going on. They might not as much, though. I can't remember exactly what I've heard specifically in regards to the end and those two. When compared to the show and those two. Despite having Lan Shichen at his mercy, Jing Guangyao still treated him as he always had, with politeness and respect. He was even perhaps a bit more polite than usual, as that made it harder to fly off the handle at him in a fit of temper. One does not slap the face of the smiling, as they say. Not that Lan Shichen had much of a temper to begin with. Listen, my husband. Jing Guangyao was the first to cross the threshold of the main hall. The others followed after him. During their daytime visit, Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji had noted the grandiosity of the main hall, with its spacious interior and fresh new red paint and gold lining on the walls. New red paint. Wow. Emphasis and syllable, I am so sorry, with its spacious interior and fresh new red paint and gold lining on the walls. Wow, my brain does not want to parse that. It was obvious this place was meticulously maintained. I am a whore for alliteration myself, so. A group of cultivators and monks were digging behind the grand hall. They seemed to have been at it for some time, but had yet to unearth whatever Jing Guangyao had buried in the past. Wei Wuxian glanced up and was taken aback. Upon the divine altar there stood a statue of Guanyin, the goddess of mercy. But in contrast to more common depictions of the idol, the statue's features and expression were crafted with less of a focus on compassion and benevolence, and more on delicate beauty. What really astonished him was that this particular Guanyin statue looked vaguely familiar. It resembled someone, specifically Jing Guangyao himself. The statue alone was fine, but the more one compared it to Jing Guangyao in the latter's presence, the clearer the similarities became. Indeed, it was too similar by half. Is Jing Guangyao such a narcissist? Wei Wuxian wondered. Was it not enough for him to preside over the cultivation world as the cultivation chief? Did he also feel the need to sculpt a divine statue in his own image for millions to prostrate themselves before and worship? Or is this some sort of wicked magic I don't know about? Well, the thing about Jing Guangyao, is that he's like a lot of things as a result of his particular, upbringing and traumatic experiences. So, like, on one hand, thinks he's nothing. On the other hand, therefore, is sort of compensating for that by wanting to be at the top and therefore worshipped. To prove everybody wrong, to do everyone wrong who did him wrong, to... This is kind of a gross simplification, and I'm really leaving a lot out about Jing Guangyao, but once again, I have to keep reading. I keep getting sidetracked. Sit. Sit, Lan Wangji's voice suddenly echoed next to his ear. You cannot do that to a whisper bitch like myself. You... MXT... Oh, alrighty. So, actually, that's an oddly good place to leave off now that I think about it. Immediately, where did the bookmark go? Alright, so I'm going to have to end it there because wives are home and things are happening, and she should probably have Starbucks waiting for me, actually. So, I will see you guys. For you, it will be on Friday. For me, it will be on Thursday. But I will see you guys for the next installment. I can hear you screaming at me to keep reading. I know. I will be back in a couple of days with hopefully a full session because no one will try to break into my house. All right? I hope you had fun. I had a damn blast. I will see you in a couple of days, and In the meantime, please remember to take care of yourself.